No,
Craig's gonna come.
he's on.
Hey, good evening, everybody. My name is Craig Spicer. I'm the naturalist here with the Wood County Park District, and I thank you all for coming to one of our base camp series talks. If you're not familiar, this is a series of talks where I like to invite adventurers who have gone all over the place, whether it's locally here or across the country, some people even across the world. I like to bring them here to inspire and hopefully advocate for the outdoors, and hopefully instill a little bit of passion for the outdoors into you, the audience, and to let you know that they all live around here too. They all call Northwest Ohio their home, their base camp. So hopefully that's inspiring to you. And I know that these two are going to be today. Randy and Gloria Box, I've known them my entire life. I guess I should say they've known me my entire life. We went to the same church for quite a long time. Me growing up, First Presbyterian Church in Grand Rapids, Ohio. A little shout out. But I can safely say that a big reason for my passion in the outdoors is because they stewarded the way into me being exposed to the outdoors. So I owe a lot to these two people. They have been paddling together for over 50 years. And they have a lot of experience and a lot of passion for what they do, particularly the rivers that they're going to be talking about today up in Michigan. Don't want to steal any more thunder from Randy and Gloria Box.
Lost that again. Oh, man.
Oh, man.
Not that.
We're asking a lot of you today.
Technology and myself are not a friend. Putting this together was kind of a challenge, but I had help, let's put it that way. As Craig said, we've canoed together since 1973. It was our first adventure, the two of us, and we remained married even through that event that year when I ran her into a limb on a tree. It's a long story, but no. Yeah, we canoed that on the Grayling up on the Asaba River, and that's where it started. The next year we started with a group of people from our church, a series of church canoe trips for youth, and we canoed the next year in '74 the Mohegan River from Loudonville to Coshocton. It was 60 miles, and we took everything with us: tents, food, freeze-dried food, and it was a great experience. But since then, we've done 25 trips with the church. I've done Boy Scout trips with my son, and then we've done family trips. So we've, well, let me get on with it here, and you'll see what's going on. The church trips, though, we had nothing. I started a different text where it was going to tell about the church trips, but we're just going to a couple sentences about that. We had no canoes. We started recycling. We collected newspaper and glass, where we got 2 cents a pound for recycling these materials, and a canoe cost at that time, I think, a couple $100. And we ended up with 3 canoes and 2 canoe racks and 1 trailer for the canoe rack. And I think about 2 cents a pound. It takes 5 tons of glass or paper to buy a canoe. So when you weren't canoeing, we were recycling. Okay, but I'm going to move on, I think, to the story. I look at my wife, you know, and she nods this way, and if she nods this way, then I ask her what I did wrong. But the story today is about the Boardman River and the miracle of oil and fishes. I'm going to borrow some material from a Rotary magazine article. I'm a Rotarian, and but I have a passion for nature and the outdoors. So these are the Arctic grayling fish that this story is centered on. So follow me along here. I think, what did I do? Here we go. All right. The Anishinaabe call it the River of White Pines. Today it is known as the Boardman River. In 1847, Harry Boardman and his son Horace sailed the sloop Lady of the Lake from Chicago up Lake Michigan and landed at the future site of Traverse City. There they built a water-powered sawmill, the first dam anywhere on the Boardman River watershed, where vast stands of white pines and Norway pine and the clear waters teemed with what was called the most beautiful of our game fishes, the Arctic grayling. We had up there a second ago. In 1851, just 4 years later, Harry Boardman sold his land and sawmill to Perry Hanna, who with his partners built a large steam-powered sawmill between the river and the bay and relentlessly harvested timber. Over the next 4 decades, Hanna, Lay and Company annually sent millions of board feet of lumber to Chicago by steamer. The company's lumber yard, situated immediately beyond the southern boundary of the Great Chicago Fire of 1871, survived that event and was the source of much of the wood used to rebuild the city. By the beginning of the 20th century, the seemingly limitless pine forests were gone. The Boardman River, which had been used to transport logs to market, was badly degraded, its banks eroded, and the channels filled with sediment, sawdust, and other debris. As for the grayling, it was only a memory, gone from most Michigan streams, a victim of the logging industry and introduction of non-native species and the piggishness of sportsmen. Whoop. Okay. All right. This is a map of Michigan rivers, and if I can operate this thing, there's the Boardman. It starts up here and goes into the west branch of Grand Traverse Bay, and through our canoe trips that we mentioned earlier, we've canoed all the rivers up in the northern third of Michigan, other than the Thunder Bay. I've never been on that one, but all the rest of them you see up there, we've canoed. I think. I thought. Okay, this is a map of the Boardman River area. Get the right button. Okay. This is where the two forks come together to form the river, and this is the campground called the Forks. I'm going to point out some other places. This number 2 is Brown Bridge Dam area. There was a dam there when I first canoed it. Oh, excuse me, I'm wrong. There's Brown Bridge Dam right here. And another picture we'll see a little later is Shumsky's Landing. And this is Bettner Road, and Bettner Rapids begins right here at the road. And here's Boardman Dam and Mill Pond. Oh, come on. Here we go. I'm leaning on it too hard. And I thought, this one. This is the Sabin Dam, and we'll have pictures in that area. And this is the Union Street Dam that we'll be talking about a little later. But this is the city of Traverse City in the downtown area right there. Gives you a feel for where we're at. Yeah, this is our grayling Arctic grayling. I'm saying it backwards. Okay. People were not done exploiting the Boardman. They turned to it as a source of energy. The Boardman Dam, if I could get this, all right. Yeah, sure enough. I think. Just right click. I don't know, Craig, you might have to push it for me. Okay. All right. Okay, this is the Brown Bridge Dam. This is the dam that's the furthest to the east. It's the first bridge you come to when you're canoeing down the river. And the first time we canoed, we had to portage around this dam. And it had a large pond behind it. We'll see that in a little bit. This is the Boardman Dam, another hydro dam. And this is the Sabin Dam. It's directly after the Boardman Dam. The Keystone Dam was washed out in 1961 and was never replaced. Okay. Recently, some residents looked around and they didn't like what they found. They wondered if the river might be restored to resemble the stream described by the region's first settlers and still revered by its indigenous people. Who knows, perhaps they could even resurrect the storied Arctic grayling. Among the core group promoting this change in perspective were some who were particularly well equipped to help effect the changes, Rotarians. Preservation and conservation are part of the club's ethos, says Becky Ewing, a member of the Rotary Club of Traverse City. It's part of the fabric of our region, especially the protection of our most precious resource, water. Rotarians take that to heart. A former environmental consultant who developed programs and projects for the Great Lakes Water Studies Institute of Northwestern Michigan College, Ewing served until recently as the executive director of the Rotary Charities of Traverse City. Founded in 1977, that foundation has invested more than $63 million into a wide variety of projects and programs in the 5-county Grand Traverse region. Some of that money helped kickstart plans to restore the Boardman River and bring back the Arctic grayling. Green initiatives that were made possible by the unlikely partner of environmentalist activist oil. There's the oil wells. The Rotary Club of Traverse City was chartered in May 1st, 1920. One of the club's first projects involved getting kids outdoors. The club's third president, an avid fisherman named Clarence Graylick, led efforts to establish campgrounds for the area's Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, and 4-H members. In 1923, the club paid $1,100 to buy 450 acres near Spider and Rennie Lake, two of the 70-plus lakes in the watershed. The club later acquired additional land, and in 1955, all the property was turned over to a newly created nonprofit entity now called Rotary Camps and Services of Traverse City. The nonprofit then leased the original Camp Graylick property to the Scenic Trails Council of the Boy Scouts of America. The Scouts secured a 99-year lease for the exorbitant sum of $1. The Rotarians had the foresight to hang on to the property's mineral rights. One of the primary bedrock formation of the Boardman watershed is Antrim Shale, which is renowned for producing oil and gas. In 1974, evidence of underground oil was discovered on land near the campgrounds. The following year, Rotary Camps and Services entered into an agreement with Total Petroleum, allowing it to look for oil on the club's land. Club member Al Arnold, a lawyer, crafted an agreement that gave the Rotary Club 25% royalties from the proceeds of any oil or gas discovered. And once total production costs were covered, that amount would jump to 40%. In 1976, Total found oil on the property near Spider Lake. Spider Lake is a lake that Gloria and I have been to. My college professor at the University of Toledo had a summer home there, and when I graduated, he retired to Spider Lake, and we went up in '73 to visit them. So we know the area, and that's what kind of drew me into this story. Rotary Charities of Traverse City was formed to manage the oil revenues, handed out its first grants in 1982. The foundation funds programs in the 5 northern Michigan counties, Antrim, Benzie, Grand Traverse, Kalkaska, and Leelanau, that generally fall into the categories of health, education, government, the arts, and the environment. Okay, let's take another look. Okay, now we're going to see some pretty pictures here. Sorry to bore you with some of that history that we're going to have to endure. But this is the Forks. That's the furthest to the east. It's where the two forks of the river come together. And up in right here is a boat launch for fishing boats, where they can enter the river, and it is a campground. We've camped there numerous times. Every time we go there, we camp at this campsite. It's about 6-8 inches deep, and our granddaughter and grandson, when they were 20 years ago, when they were real little, were just play out there. You didn't have to worry about anything. Oh. Yeah. Okay. Uh-oh, now what did I do? Am I going the wrong way?
Were you guys tent camping? Yes.
Okay. Okay. This is the Boardman River along just west of the Forks. Just a gorgeous river.
We took those pictures in September of this year. September 23rd, and 24th.
Yeah. This is the next area. It's called Ranch Rudolph. It's a dude ranch, I would say, where you can rent a horse and go for horseback riding and camp. Okay, and that's downstream from that same area.
The leaves were starting to turn. It was really pretty at that time.
Okay. Oh. Okay. This is at Brown Bridge Dam. It's a big dam that we showed the picture of, and this picture, of course, is after the dam was removed. The area to the left and right, the high grounds, that's where the dam originally stood. And
The water was how high?
yeah, okay, just the dark green was the water line. All that light green in here is new growth since the dam was removed. And they went through and planted native plants and wildflowers, and it's gorgeous. It's just a beautiful float. I'll go back there. I got show and share here tonight. This is a piece of the Brown Bridge Dam. I just brought it along. And we found the beaver stick here in the river when we were at that site. So every now and then I'll grab something off the table and over here, if I get the right, maybe.
They have a walking bridge over the top, and you can walk up.
There's the hiking trail through the whole area. The first time we canoed this after the dam was removed, we saw surveyors out in there, and that what had been underwater, trying to determine who owned it, because it was a reservoir for so long. People that owned property up above now had property that was underwater. This is Shumsky's Landing. It's an intermediate spot along the river between Brown Bridge and Bettner Rapids. Just a beautiful area. There we go. Okay, now we're at Bettner Rapids. This is upstream, just to give you an idea what the river looks like there. This is the culverts at Bettner Road, and the other side will be the rapids area. This is where we're at now. We started way out in here, and we canoed up to here. They have a series of hiking trails, and this is where we start, and then this is the reservoir behind Boardman Dam, and this is the reservoir behind Sabin Dam. And this is yours truly in Bettner Rapids. Good bit ago, probably 20 years ago. My niece took that picture, and I was so glad she did. I have proof that I was there. Okay, now this is the pond behind Boardman Dam. This is all new growth. It was underwater, and the river's now down here in the way in the bottom.
It's natural place.
It's a natural channel, original channel. These are some signs that.
Is that on either side? Is that public land on that, or is it privately owned mostly?
I think that's public land. It seemed to be. There were hiking trails along that whole area where just gorgeous views that you could walk. Big loop trails. That's park land. Yeah. I see they have rapids and obstacles lie ahead, experienced paddlers only. Walk the trails to assess challenges downstream. So, and then they have these little onion bags for people who are walking, fishing, whatever, to put your debris in so you don't litter. So I brought one along just to show you what.
It's funny that they put out the whole onion bags.
Clean up after yourself. So I thought that was kind of neat.
Yeah, that's good. We saw some fishermen when we were there too. They were having a good time down there. We have some pictures maybe.
Yeah, they're coming up here. This is again at Boardman, where the dam had been. A little challenging water there. And the water is crystal clear there.
There's one.
Yep. This is an angler just downstream from the Sabin Dam. This is upstream from the Sabin Dam and the...
That isn't there now.
This is what would have been underwater upstream from the dam. And another fisherman right down where, I would say, where the dam had been. And this is the Nature Center. Gloria's standing out front of it, Boardman River Nature Center. And a sign advertising native plants, bringing the landscape to life. Master Gardener program, some things that Wood County Parks promotes a little bit. This is what we saw when we were canoeing after they restored the flooded areas. It was just gorgeous. There's a sign for gentian violet right here, bottle gentian. I'm getting back into pharmacy again. And there it is. This is September, it's still blooming, so it's just gorgeous. Okay. It says in the Traverse City area, tourists annually generate more than $1 billion for the local economy. The Boardman River, acclaimed as one of the state's best trout streams, has been a prime draw for decades. But the dams had raised the temperature of the river, threatened the cold water habitat in which trout thrive. It was not good for the region's ecology or its economy. In 2009, after 180 public meetings and input from more than 1,000 people, the county and the city voted to demolish 3 of the dams and modify a 4th. None were a significant source of hydroelectric power. Under the auspices of the Boardman River Dams Ecosystem Restoration Project, the dams were removed between 2012 and 2018. So it hadn't been too long ago. The river was returned to its original channel, now cleared of excessive sediment. The project reconnected 160 miles of cold water streams along the Boardman watershed, repaired eroding riverbanks, and restored hundreds of acres of wetlands and wildlife habitat. Rotary Charity's involvement with the Boardman project is characteristics of its approach to incubate ambitious projects by investing relatively small sums of money while establishing connections and extending collaboration among other groups and individuals. The strategy is evident in another endeavor backed by the foundation that gives literal incubation, the attempt to resurrect an almost mythical fish, the Arctic grayling we have here. Due to overfishing, the logging industry's pollution of the rivers, by 1935, the last grayling had vanished from Michigan streams. Now an endeavor to return the Arctic grayling to Michigan's rivers by the Michigan Arctic Grayling Initiative has attracted some 50 partners, including the Michigan DNR, the Nature Conservancy, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and a handful of colleges and universities, and several other Native American tribes and communities. The city of Grayling is on board, as are the anglers of the Osabo, which no doubt would please James Milner. The Little River Band of Ottawa Indians, with the state of Michigan, one of the project's co-founders, contributed $100,000. Consumers Energy Foundation kicked in $117,000, and the Henry F. and Consuelo Wegner Foundation has donated more than $300,000. Rotary Charities of Traverse City saw the potential early on. In 2017, they provided a small amount of money, $10,000 as seed money, that would have a big impact. They wanted to give the Grayling Initiative an opportunity to explore, to build partnerships, and to experiment. And today they have raised more than $600,000. There's the fish we're trying to save. That is, to me, a very unique fish. Beautiful.
We're not sure if that's the male and that's the female or not. We don't know.
The effort to get the Arctic grayling back into Michigan waters will focus on research, management, education, and outreach, and fish production. In 2019, the Michigan DNR obtained about 10,000 grayling eggs from the Chena River in Alaska and delivered them to Michigan State University, where they could be quarantined and given health exams. Since the eggs originated from outside the Great Lakes Basin, the team needed to make sure they did not inadvertently introduce a new pathogen into Michigan's rivers and streams. From Michigan State University, the eggs were moved to the Odin State Fish Hatchery near Petoskey, which had been equipped with a protective ultraviolet filter on the outflowing water of the isolation facility. In And on the 17th of September in 2020, one of these small success days, approximately 4,000 young graylings were moved to the Marquette State Fish Hatchery in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. This first batch of broodstock will remain there for another 4 to 6 years when they should begin producing eggs of their own. Meanwhile, project members are surveying Michigan rivers, among them the Boardman, to find a suitable location where incubators with fertilized eggs might one day be introduced. They must find a site where the grayling can successfully compete against the brown and the brook trout that were intentionally released into rivers in the state's lower peninsula beginning in the late 19th century. The Michigan DNR and its partners also understand that graylings are very choosy about their habitat. Recalling a 1975 trip through the remote Alaskan wilderness, the writer John McPhee noted that grayling are indicators of the quality of a stream. They seek out fast, cold, clear water, so do trout, but grayling have higher standards. Trout will settle for sub-perfect waters in which grayling will refuse to live. As it did with about everything else, COVID-19 pandemic disrupted the grayling initiative's timetable. Perhaps the biggest blow came in 2020 with the cancellation of the second of 3 planned trips to collect eggs from Alaska. But a means of achieving the wide genetic diversity can ensure the grayling's survival. So in 2021, a Michigan State researcher was able to travel to Alaska and collect the second batch of eggs. Some of the last piece of the Boardman projects will include the transformation of the Union Street Dam into a state-of-the-art educational facility. I think, maybe. Sure, there. This is an artist's conception of that. This would be on Union Street, and it's near the, in Traverse City, near the bay. Mm-hmm. The facility will also include an installation of a channel that will allow certain species access into the Boardman watershed from Grand Traverse Bay while keeping out unwelcome intruders. Okay. The Michigan Department of Natural Resources is planning to stock some adult Arctic grayling in the Upper Peninsula to make room for its hatchery system for the expanding broodstock, which is being raised as part of a species reintroduction program. The stocking numbers won't be large, but they will offer anglers an opportunity to hook a fish that hasn't populated Michigan's waters in nearly a century. The 2019 class of Arctic grayling are starting to mature, and we can only maintain so many of them per raceway as they get bigger. And so we need to move some out of these systems. Our idea is that we'll stock adult grayling in certain lakes, which would create kind of an instant fishery. For these guys. The DNR has asked the State Natural Resource Commission to amend state law to allow anglers to catch and release grayling, which is currently prohibited. Harvesting the fish would remain illegal. The commission was planning on taking up this change in its October 2023 meeting. The actual stocking was planned to take place late fall of 2023 or this winter. The total number of Arctic grayling that would be stocked and the lakes which were to receive the fish were still being determined. The estimate is a few hundred fish. We're not talking about a lot, just getting started. The fish are about 10 to 12 inches from the 2019 brood. The DNR is eyeing lakes which are less than 50 acres in size and which are close to the Marquette State Fish Hatchery, where the grayling are being raised. Two possible sites are Penegore and Peralt Lakes in Houghton County.
That's Upper Peninsula.
Yeah, this would be in the Upper Peninsula. The DNR and its conservation partners began the Michigan Arctic Grayling Initiative in 2016 to reintroduce the native Arctic grayling to Michigan after the species was extirpated in 1930s. Specific location for in-stream incubators are still being determined, but the list of watersheds for the initial reintroduction include the Upper Manistee, the Boardman, the Maple, the Upper Jordan, and the Upper Osavo River. Overfishing, logging, habitat loss, and introduction of non-native trout caused Michigan's grayling population to decline around the turn of the century. The state built a hatchery in 1914 to save the species through stocking, but loss continued, and by the 1930s, the grayling were gone. In 1980, the DNR tried unsuccessfully to reintroduce the species by releasing juvenile fish, which did not return to the introduction sites to spawn. The DNR should have enough broodstock to begin fertilizing fish and putting incubators in selected streams in 2025. The ultimate goal is to develop a naturally reproducing population. Among Rotary's charities, many partners and collaborators are the bands of Ottawa and Chippewa people who live, as they have for centuries, in the Grand Traverse region. Several of those tribes are members of the Arctic Grayling Initiative, and they were at the leadership table with the Boardman River project. They provided an invaluable indigenous perspective. They helped us realize that the Boardman is not just a river, and they helped us understand what healing the river means. It was a unique blending of the spiritual with science and technology. In the Ottawa, A River Reborn, a 2017 documentary about the restoration of the Boardman, which was once known as the Ottawa, a member of the Grand Traverse Band of Ottawa and Chippewa Indians explains, "We look ahead to 7 generations. We make decisions based not on today, but based on the impact they'll have in the future." When you think like that and you remember that you have to honor 7 generations ago because somebody thought of you that far ahead, it gives you a different perspective. You have to make decisions today that are going to be the best for the future 7 generations. And you have to carry yourself and show honor to where you are in the here and now because somebody thought of you. That is the end of my history lesson, I guess, and I am willing to take some questions. Yes?
How long is that river? How big is that river?
Oh boy. They said there was 160 miles in the total watershed, and that's all the branches and tributaries of it, but it's about 3 days of paddling, and I want to say 40 to 60 miles. Yeah, something like that. Yes?
When you paddle the whole river?
We paddled from the Forks to Bettner Rapids. We've not paddled that last stretch through the last 2 dams because they were just, when we first paddled it, it was a big portage around the dam, and we did not do that yet, but that's on my list. I guess it's not the journeys that you've taken in the past, but what you're planning for the future. So we've done something, but we can do more.
We enjoyed the second day of our paddling so much that we did it another day.
The first day.
First day?
It was the first
Yeah,
day.
the first day, and then we went again on that same stretch because it was so pretty with all the wildflowers.
Yeah, yeah. Hi.
Hi. I don't know that much about Michigan. I'm not even sure about Ohio. But I noticed on the map, I can kind of read maps a little bit. It looks like it goes into the bay, and then, of course, that goes into Lake Michigan.
That's Lake Michigan, yes.
But then internally, there were rivers that didn't go into the lakes. They kind of like, are there internal only rivers in Michigan?
I think that was taken from Jerry Dennis and Craig Date's book. And this, what they showed there were sections of the river which were canoeable.
Oh.
And the last little bit might be slow waters or impoundments and things, swamps and marshes.
Creeks that come into and
Yeah,
that kind of.
yeah. We were,
Usually they can take them together.
I do have a handout here on the Boardman you can look at after we're done. And yeah, I know what you're talking about here. Like the Jordan, that goes up and it continues on up. The sturgeon, now these are ones that, like the pigeon, I've canoed all of that. If you want to imagine, Route 75 goes right up between these two. And the sturgeon goes into Burt Lake. The pigeon goes into Mullet Lake, and the Indian River connects the two lakes, and then they end up going out into Lake Huron.
So if they go into a natural lake, kettle or something, that could be an indication that they don't go all the way.
They'll get to the lake eventually. All the water goes downhill.
Oh, I see, okay.
All of our water here goes to the Atlantic. Goes over Niagara Falls, through the Great Lakes, through Lake Michigan, to Lake Huron, and eventually to Lake Erie, Lake Ontario, and then the St. Lawrence Seaway to the Atlantic Ocean. Yes?
Okay, so you said it takes about 3 days to canoe. So when you did the Boardman, did you canoe through an outfit or something like that picked you up at the end, or how did you stay at different campgrounds as you went down, or what?
Yeah, we stayed right about here at the Forks,
Yeah, that was where you started, right?
and then we canoed over somewhere in here to Brown Bridge the first day, and oh yeah, here we go, Brown Bridge, and we spotted a car. We had enough people we could leave a vehicle there, and then we went back to our campsite here, down this little road, dirt road. And then the next day we came back to this spot and started and canoed over to Bettner, and there's a parking lot at 5, and went back.
But they do have canoe liveries.
Not much on this river.
Not much on that river, but on some of
A
it,
lot of the rivers will have a canoe livery that can,
that you can get.
especially on the Ausable River, you know, they'll have Manistee River, there's numerous canoe liveries.
Yeah, because we've kayaked the Mohican River, and that's what we've done, is we started at, the start of the livery, but we always had somebody bring us back.
Sure.
Yeah. Like that.
Yeah, when we, as I said, in 1973, Gloria and I canoed the first time on the Ausable River. We went into Grayling and hired a canoe livery to take our vehicle to the end. And then we brought us back and we started from their canoe livery. And then when we got there, we had our vehicle and we could go on our merry way. Yeah. You have to make your own adventures.
Are there dams on the Ausable River also?
Yes. And I haven't heard of any talk about removing them yet, but I may be out of the loop on that. Loud and 5 Channels Dam, they're big dams. And I've canoed.
So you have to portage quite a bit if you're going down the Ausable?
You portage at Mayo, the first dam. The next one, I think, is Loud, and the next one's 5 Channels Dam. And there might be more. I have to look, and it's in the book. We can look at it when we're finished today. You're welcome to look at it. And this is my go-to reference. If you have a question and you look at the maps first, you look at Delorme maps, you can ask at canoe liveries. They're always a great source to help you out as to for information about the conditions on the river. And then the DNR and the some rivers require permits.
Require what?
Permit. They limit the number of canoes on the river, and we've had to get permits before we did the Pierre Marquette and the Pine River. Yep, that's a tributary of the Manistee. So, you know, if you go through a canoe livery, they have already established their quota there. You're okay, but if you're going in as an individual, you would need a permit on some of them. And then some of them require a, let's see if I got a Michigan passport permit to use their, to fund their operation, the parks and the campgrounds. Yeah. Just like if you're going up there snowmobiling, you have to buy a sportsman's permit, and then you have to buy a permit for your snowmobile. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Have you been on the Boardman and maybe some of the others in the area that different times of the year maybe, or different kind of seasons where sometimes there's been a big rain and does it fluctuate?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's...
Don't call it a sturgeon when there's 6 inches of rain.
Another thing you might want to consider, we're talking about dams, hydroelectric dams. One time we didn't get into camp until late. It was dark. We had kind of had a long day, and we pulled canoes up onto shore. We had to set up tents. We had to cook supper. Kind of forgot about those canoes that we pulled up on shore. Well, at night, the hydro dams shut down their operation because there's less demand for electricity in Michigan at night. And because you're not cooking, you're not bathing, you know, those type of things. So we got up the next morning and our canoes weren't there, or not all of them anyhow. Hopefully mine was there, but some of the campers forgot to tie them up. So 2 of us had to go about a mile downstream finding canoes and tow them back to the campsite. So we had our exercise before the day started. Yeah, and as Gloria mentioned, on the Sturgeon River after a heavy rain, it can be dangerous. And there's strainers and sweepers, and we tipped once on that day. And
We were letting people go out on that river, and they were crazy.
probably wasn't safe.
They shouldn't have been
Yeah.
people on that
Yeah.
river. We were saving people.
Yeah.
And collecting paddles and
Loaning paddles.
loaning paddles. Yeah, it was not a good thing.
But it's all good
Yeah.
if you come back alive.
Turned out okay.
Any other questions?
Thanks so much, Randy.
Thank you. Yeah.
So we've got a few more talks in our series of Base Camp Stories. There are 2 of them per month. So we're issuing ourselves into February here, and we're starting off with a return speaker, Jody Harrington, who has been to all of the national parks, and she is somehow going to summarize her trip and experience of visiting all of them in our short hour-and-a-half time slot. So definitely don't want to miss that. Head to wcparks.org and register by clicking on the programs link for that program and all the other programs at Wood County Parks. We're going to start cleaning up and everything, but if you have any other questions or want to talk to Randy or Gloria,
We'll look at anything up here.
or look at the stuff over here, get your hands on some beaver shoe stuff, by all means, you are welcome to do that. So thanks again for coming, and hope you have a safe trip home.
I would like to look at
Yeah, sure.
your book here about the ensemble. Would that be
Yeah,
in here?
either one. Now, this is the